This week on The Aviators, we try our best to keep up with the unconventional pilot known as Jetman, who takes us the closest we've ever come to a real bird's eye view. And then consider how good it feels to give back, as we highlight some of the organizations through which your plane can truly serve a meaningful purpose. Over the past 4 seasons of The Aviators, we've showcased a lot of types of aircraft. We've shown you big ones, small ones, and even covered one that doesn't have an engine. We've also spent time with a number of performers, from legendary aerobatics virtuoso Sean Tucker to formation flying trio Team Aerostars. Yves Rossy is an altogether different breed of aviator, since in his case, Yves essentially is the aircraft.
My name is Yves Rossy. I am 54, a Swiss guy from Switzerland, married, no children, and I'm here as Jetman.
At the age of 13, Swiss-born Yves Rossy attended an air show where he found himself so enamored by the performing military jets that he walked away from the show knowing exactly what he wanted to do when he grew up. He wanted to fly. This spark of inspiration pointed Yves toward the dream he would pursue throughout his life. Not long after, Yves took his first step and became a military pilot in the Swiss Air Force, leading to an array of experience in the world of aviation.
Fighter airplanes first, of the line airplanes. So I did aerobatics, hang glider, paragliders.
But it wasn't until the age of 30 that Yves discovered what would prove to be his deepest passion.
Skydiving, free fall, free, completely free of your moves. In an airplane, you are in a machine, in a box, and you steer something. In free fall, you steer yourself with your body moves. Unfortunately, the vector is only vertical, and it's very, very short. So the idea came, wow, it would be good to keep these feelings of pure freedom and instead to fall, change the vector, and why not climb?
The thrill he discovered through free movement in the sky led Yves down a long road of experimentation until 2006, when he became the first man in the history of aviation to fly with a jet-propelled wing. He had become the Jetman. Following 18 years of trial and error, over which he produced over 15 prototype wings, Yves finally found a good solution with a glider, which was at first inflatable and then modified with a rigid carbon Kevlar design. He also came to the realization that in order to truly fly like a bird, his wing was going to need a major power boost. The idea came to him to power his wing using model jet engines, the same ones used by collectors and hobbyists to power their radio-controlled aircraft.
I did find a good solution as a glider. Then I did put 2 engines to fly level, then 4 engines to climb, and then change the shape, like that one. And now I can do aerobatics, loop, and so on, but always only with my body moves.
The 4 JetCat P200 engines fitted to Yves' wing hold roughly 8 gallons of fuel and smoke oil, providing him with about 10 minutes of flying time. The entire unit has a wingspan of about 6.5 feet and weighs 120 pounds when fueled up. Considering that this is akin to putting on a 120-pound backpack which remains strapped to his back for the duration of his flight, developing a reliable safety mechanism was paramount.
You don't go in the air without a plan B. So plan B, a harness that with one handle that I can release. From that development, I was ready to put anything on my back, because at any time in a bad situation, I could quit that bad situation thanks this release.
When it's time to take flight, equipped with only an altimeter for safety, a timer on his chest to monitor his 10 minutes in the sky, and a small throttle on his thumb, Yves climbs onto the skid of an airplane or helicopter and begins his ascent to 6,500 feet.
At the beginning, a parachutist, at the end, a parachutist. Just go up at your altitude, start the engines stabilized. I have 4 green lights telling me, yeah, they are stabilized on idle, and then bye. You need consistency, and you get consistency through speed. So you feel everything, okay, yeah, the air is now, I can steer myself and the wing in the air because the speed is coming like that. I put full trust in a dive. And when I feel, yeah, that's the right moment, okay, I arch and it climbs. And that's a magic moment because you are passing from a status of a stone in the status of a bird.
While in flight, Yves soars through the air at an average speed of 125 miles an hour and reaches nearly 200 miles an hour when descending. He's flown in formation with Spitfires, DC-3s, and jet teams, in addition with monumental flights across the skies of Rio and especially memorable for Yves, the Grand Canyon.
One of the most fantastic flights that I had with wings because so beautiful, and again, Mother Nature, that was like a direct connection with the big birds, you know? You are so a tiny little thing that just thank you. It was beautiful.
As his timer nears the 10-minute mark, it's time for Yves to release his parachute and begin his descent. While it appears that Yves has already accomplished his goals, he isn't showing any signs of slowing down as he continues work at optimizing his wing in search of more powerful engines that will give him even more freedom in the sky. Whatever the future holds, it's clear that when Yves Rossy straps on his jet-propelled wing and takes off in flight, the dreams of that 13-year-old boy at the air show haven't diminished in the least. I'm sure that most pilots will agree that you really don't need a reason to fly. Flying releases the mind to experience relaxation high above the Earth's surface. Without a particular goal in mind, your route might involve an easygoing flight of sightseeing with friends and family, or making undiscovered discoveries like that $100 hamburger, or just poking holes in the clouds. But even though we welcome that carefree getaway once in a while, consider some humanitarian options next time you're looking to just get into the air. Helping others is a great way to stay passionate about flying, and while generosity is a reward in itself, volunteering can help you grow as a pilot by allowing you to build flight time and gain new experience. Remember that aviators have a unique ability to provide assistance to both people and communities who can certainly benefit from a set of wings. So try giving back by flying for charities and relief organizations like the ones featured on today's show, because lending your wings to those who need them most makes an already exceptional skill feel that much more special. Ranking high among the numerous draws toward the world of general aviation is the potential of owning your very own aircraft. Whether you're opting to bypass the woes of highway traffic in favor of flying straight to a destination, darting out for a $100 hamburger, or just building time in the sky, there's nothing quite like the tremendous sense of freedom, privilege, and pride that comes with owning an airplane. While the pleasure derived by the recreational aspect of flying through the skies can't be denied, for some general aviation pilots, their aim is even higher. It's been referred to as aviation philanthropy, charity or compassion flights, humanitarian air transport, and public benefit aviation. But whatever you choose to call it, each year thousands of pilots volunteer their time, talent, and resources to nonprofit organizations with the objective of helping those in dire situations. Through these ongoing efforts, each year sees thousands of no-cost flights provided to individuals and populations across the world whose financial, medical, or geographic limitations may have all but eliminated their ability to access the services or support they require. Whether their mission is to transport an individual in need of medical attention, provide disaster relief to a devastated population, or fly a rescued animal to a new family, each and every pilot shares the common goal of doing something they love in service of a greater need. Established in 1983, Angel Flight West is one such organization. Operating throughout America's 13 western states, the volunteer-driven organization matches its pilots with individuals suffering from serious medical conditions and other compelling needs to facilitate air transportation, which will enable them to receive critical treatment and care that might otherwise be inaccessible.
I've flown as part of Angel Flight West since 1991. This is an opportunity to have a hands-on experience to help people who really would have no other way of getting to where they need to be but for the flights that Angel Flight provides.
Victor Ninoff is a volunteer pilot with Angel Flight West.
As a pilot, I get to go to places that I would never dream to go, to pick up patients. I've been to airports that I never would have dreamt to go into. But on the other side, it's indeed very rewarding to help somebody who is in dire need and bring him in a comfortable way to the medical appointment or treatment that they need.
The nature of Angel Flight West's activities are varied, and for pilots like Rob and Victor, there's no such thing as a typical mission. But regardless of the specifics, each and every flight is a rewarding experience for passenger and pilot alike.
There's really no such thing as a typical mission for Angel Flight. Each one is slightly different. We do fly a lot of people going to and from treatment, and you pick them up possibly from treatment and they're tired, maybe they've had chemotherapy, and all they really want to do is get home. You put them in the plane and they immediately fall asleep and they wake up and they're back at home and they're incredibly grateful, and we're happy to do it. And there are some people we fly who want to see the maps, they want to listen in, they put on a headset, they want to know how the equipment works, they're incredibly fascinated by flying, and it's part of the therapy for them. They get to do a different experience and fly with us, and they enjoy that. If a patient is 500 or 600 miles or 400 miles from treatment and they don't have the ability or the financial resources to get to treatment, they simply will not go. And public benefit aviation allows them to be picked up and brought to treatment and then brought home again in a safe and comfortable environment. And so they're back with their families, which is critical to treatment, that they're not stuck in a hospital when they don't have to be, or put up in a hotel that they can't afford, or separated from the people who are actually helping them get better.
While there's no set journey through which a pilot ultimately chooses to volunteer his or her time to an organization like Angel Flight West, for Stuart D. Hirsch, it was really only a matter of time before his seemingly disparate backgrounds in aviation, medicine, humanitarianism, and military service would converge into one cohesive mission.
From my earliest memories, I felt that aviation was a great discipline, and I grew up with it. And I started feeling that aviation could be used to bring teams of people into areas of great need. And as I grew into adulthood, that vision became stronger. And I also saw the potential of creating a team with a strong aviation resource, but a team of specialists such as medical specialists, trainers, advisors, almost like a humanitarian special operations team that could use aviation and other resources, such as land and sea transport, to go into these areas of great need.
In 2010, following the catastrophic earthquake in Haiti, Stuart was finally prompted to turn his vision into reality with the creation of Archangel Airborne.
We're going into villages where there are no clinics, where there are no physicians. Some people here in these villages or in the villages themselves don't even know what their birthdays are. Some of them have never seen a physician or any medical provider. And it's an honor to be with them. It's an honor to serve them. But it's also an honor to learn from them as we come into contact with them and to just see how deeply appreciative they are of our presence. And that's humbling as well.
Thomas Michael Lovelace is the Executive Vice President and First Mission Officer in Command at Archangel Airborne.
When the earthquake happened in Haiti, this was an opportunity for us to prove what we were talking about and the concept of what we were talking about. It was using aviation to move supplies and personnel into an area that was of need of supplies, and we move it safely, and we move our crews safely.
The years since their first mission have seen Stuart and his team return to Haiti for subsequent missions to further their work in providing disaster response, as well as medical, logistical, and consultative support to areas in great need. In late 2012, Archangel made the decision to turn its focus towards its first stateside mission by putting its experience to work in New York and New Jersey following the devastation caused by Superstorm Sandy.
We realized in that moment that not only do we have a calling to serve globally, but we must also embrace the calling to serve domestically, especially in times of great tragedy, whether it's natural disaster, terrorist event, or other disaster that's affecting the lives of our people here. And we found that in the wake of Sandy, we were able to rapidly mobilize and deliver supplies to the coastal regions in New Jersey and New York. And we were able to use our aircraft to airlift supplies in when fuel was being rationed and cars and trucks had a very difficult time getting to certain areas.
This scenario can be done anywhere in the world, and we intend to expand as much as we can, but our primary goal is not focused on Haiti, but is focused on how we can do this throughout the poor regions of the Western Hemisphere and even the world if we expand that far.
Whereas organizations like Archangel Airborne, Angel Flight West, and many others focus their efforts on a human population, Pilots N Paws has an altogether different target in mind. Pilots N Paws was established in 2008 by animal activist Deb Boyes, with a focus on providing an online means for those who rescue, foster, and shelter animals to connect with pilots and plane owners willing to volunteer their time and their aircraft toward the transportation of the animals.
Pilots N Paws got started when Debbie Boyes, a friend of mine, needed to pick up a Doberman in Tallahassee that she had adopted. She lived in South Carolina, was going to drive down to Tallahassee to pick it up, and I opted to fly down, pick up the pup, and bring it back to her. She wasn't even aware that that could be done. So we agreed to do it. I picked up her husband, Bob. We flew down, picked up the pup, and brought it back to her.
Pilot John Warenberg is the co-founder of Pilots N Paws.
I was astounded. I thought to myself, my gosh, who offers this? This is so kind, so generous. And I said, John, are you serious? And he said, of course I'm serious. Pilots love to fly. They're always looking for a reason. Sometimes they just get in their planes and go for a hamburger in the next county. You know, I'll just go down and bring them home. And I said, that'd be great. So he did, and when he came back, he posed the question to me, do you need to move these animals? Is this just a local thing? Is it a one-time thing? And my response to him at the time was just, you have no idea. You really have no idea how many animals are killed in shelters that could go on to have happy lives.
Unbeknownst to Deb and John at the time, the inaugural flight of Pilots N Paws had just taken place. While still a relatively young organization, Pilots N Paws has already relocated over 40,000 animals with the help of approximately 15,000 individuals using their website to connect the rescue and shelter organizations with general aviation pilots who volunteer their time to transport the animals.
Well, I fly for Pilots N Paws mainly because I found that the majority of these animals don't have anybody else advocating for them.
Jeff Bennett is a volunteer pilot with Pilots N Paws.
You got hundreds of programs for people. Unfortunately, the dogs have very few, if any. So a dog that gets put into a rural shelter doesn't have a chance of coming out, or has a very low chance of coming out. So combining our love of flying with love of animals, we're able to take those dogs from those rural areas and get them to places where they're more easily adopted.
While the Pilots N Paws network continues to grow with over 3,000 pilots already flying for the organization, John and Deb have their sights set on more growth in the future, both hopeful and confident that the pilot community will rise to the occasion.
I would like to see somewhere in the vicinity of 10,000 pilots willing to volunteer. It's not a huge number when you consider the number of pilots there are in the country. We have several 100,000 pilots in the country, so 10,000 pilots that want to do a rescue flight instead of flying for a hamburger is not unrealistic.
Pilots N Paws, along with Angel Flight West and Archangel Airborne, are just three of the ever-expanding community of volunteer-driven organizations providing no-cost flights for health, compassion, and community service objectives. Year after year, the efforts of these organizations and the pilots who volunteer themselves and their aircraft, asking for nothing in return, provide invaluable opportunities for individuals, families, groups, and animals that they may otherwise never have had the ability to access. And while each individual mission may have a different objective on the micro level, each and every one of them contributes to the much larger goal shared by everyone involved.
Being able to be a volunteer pilot for Angel Flight West allows me to fulfill two things that I want to do, which is one is to help people, and the other is to fly. I enjoy being in the plane, and when I can provide a service like this, it's quite a unique feeling to be able to help people that really have very few options other than to contact Angel Flight.
If we can go work with populations at risk, people who are suffering from disparity, from extreme poverty, if we can get to them and help to make their lives better, to give them a better quality of life, if we can touch the lives of those men, women, and children in a way, then that is the fulfillment of our mission.
Seasons 1 through 5 are now available on DVD and Blu-ray. For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv. From Oshkosh, Wisconsin's Whitman Regional Airport, we'll see you next time on The Aviators.